Welcome to Nordic Magic Link.
Thank you.
So today I have Scarlett with me, and she is Tantrika and witch slash magician based here in Topanga, just like me. And we're going to be talking about her practice. So, Scarlett, can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you got started in this?
Sure. Do you want to hear about the Tantra or my magic practice?
Really up to you. I mean, this is a show about
Oh,
magic, but I'm happy to hear about anything that you'd like to share.
okay, sure. So my magic practice, I'm a solitary witch, you can say. I kind of practice on my own, not part of a coven or anything. So I'm self-taught, and I practice from a lot of different traditions. I practice Wiccan magic, Kemetic magic, Egyptian magic, occult magic, and I like to create rituals and sort of just channel information, do protection rituals, um, just anything that is intriguing or that I feel called to work with, depending on the time or what I'm wanting to experience.
Well, and where are you from? Where did you grow up?
So my family is Egyptian.
Oh,
I was born and raised in Los Angeles. Um, so yeah, I mean, everyone has always been so intrigued by Egypt, and then when I grew up, I realized like Egypt is really a powerful seat of magic in the world, and it's kind of like the cradle, the initial magic in the world. So definitely made me more drawn to learning and discovering, just the power that rituals and magic really have to affect your life.
and did your interest start with the Egyptian practice or?
I actually started first with the tantra and the kundalini practice. So I I became more in tune with just spirituality and consciousness through meditation first, and then realizing just intuitive abilities and things like that, and understanding that there's more beyond the physical world, and like that not everything is what is seen by the eye, and there's this invisible energies and forces going on in the world. So I I deepened my practice with Kundalini and Tantra. Tantra is a practice that works with Kundalini energy. It has a lot to do with like transmuting your sexual energy and like using it for anything you want, really. And so it's interesting because actually, because in India, tantrics have a reputation as being like black magicians and things like that, but tantra is one of the most kind of misunderstood yogic practices. It's a very broad kind of yoga, and so it integrates a lot with other kind of practices. Like it integrates the astrology and magic, and um, so it's kind of just like a comprehensive yoga where it's made for people who are in the world that aren't really trying to renounce or necessarily be ascetic or be fasting all the time or living in a cave. So tantra kind of embraces like being in the world and using things in the world for your spiritual progression. So I feel like magic kind of naturally goes hand in hand with that. It's learning, magic and kind of understanding how to manipulate, energies and physical things in this world.
How old were you when you got started with that?
It's probably around 22.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So when when most people hear tantrika, they think it's something to do with they think it's all about sex, but it's really a practice of yoga and
Right, exactly.
right.
Um, yeah, right. So the thing with Tantra is like it's always been inclusive of, the so-called lower energies, or there in Tantra it's a very non-dual doctrine. There isn't really like this is good, this is bad. It's just kind of like you embrace your lower emotions and you transmute it and you accept yourself completely. And so while all the other yogic practices were, preaching brahmacharya and celibacy and renunciation and sort of just kind of being at war with the body and at war with our natural kind of inclinations, Tantra kind of offers like a different sort of path where it's like be in the world but not of it. And so because it talked about allowing your sexuality and like accepting your sexual nature, it's just so avant-garde that people kind of latched onto that, and they latched onto particularly the practice of maituna, or like sexual union with two people, where the goal is to kind of suspend the ego and connect with the divine. So it's just so different that people kind of like latched onto the sexuality and turned tantra into this whole like sexual, practice, and tantric massage and all these things, and they're really just Western creations. There's no such thing as tantric massage in the actual tantric texts. There's no, just with overemphasis on sexuality. There is the acceptance of the body, there is the acceptance of sexuality, the worshiping of the temple of the goddess, of the female body, of the yoni, and things like that. But it's not for sexual indulgence. It's for the purpose of accepting yourself in totality and connecting with spirit.
Okay. So it's not actually, the original books are not actually about sexual positions or anything like that. It's not
No,
like the Kama Sutra or whatever it's called.
yeah, right. So the Kama Sutra is not actually a tantric text. It was written by Vatsyayana, and it was more about even the Kama Sutra is like about the 64 arts of love, and there's actually even in that text more to just the sexual positions. It talks about how to cultivate yourself as someone who's attractive, like so like learning, like traits like how to sing and how to dance and how to like speak eloquently, like kind of like finishing school type of information. But they do say in tantric kind of rhetoric, like they do say that it's good to embrace the Kama Sutra and like learn the physical things and kind of know the physical aspect of making love, so that you can have a better preparation for like the spiritual aspect of making love. Like they're not, you know, against each other. They go hand in hand. But it's just that's not the emphasis. It's not the goal. It's more like the vehicle to reaching spirit. Because when people are having in sexual union and they're they're just fully connected, it's like a moment of egolessness. Like you are actually, you know, kind of going back to the source, like to your true self.
Wow, that's cool. How was if you went to when you went to the first tantra class, what's that about? Like, what's the first thing you learned about?
So the actual tantra that if someone were to go an actual like traditional tantric class, like it would be more yoga. A lot of it's working with the breath, and a lot of it's like raising the Kundalini energy. There's very specific mudras, different kind of yogic practices that they're very powerful. I think that maybe people kind of sometimes underestimate the power of yoga, but these yogas, like these things, they unlock the siddhis. They unlock kind of the magical abilities, you know, like being able to kind of open up things that aren't available to you otherwise, you know? So that's kind of also where I guess the magic goes hand in hand with the tantric practice. But it's very much about activating your Kundalini energy, the dormant energy that's like at the base of your spine and the coccyx bone, and that raises up into your crown, out your third eye. So you're working on opening up your psychic vision. You're working on just activating your full potential.
Wow. And what does a daily practice look like?
A daily practice, it would consist of various kriyas. Like typically, you would have what's called a sadhana, and that's like your daily practice. Some people who are very dedicated might wake up at like 4 a.m. to practice, you know, based on like a strong time of energy in the day, or you just maybe practice. The recommendation is like up to like 2.5 hours a day, but you know you do what you can, so maybe like an hour a day. And it's a lot of very breath work heavy exercises, like the breath of fire and pranayamas, and so things that really activate, kind of like rewire your thinking, and just kind of open up your energy. And you know, I'm sure you've heard of like people speaking of having like kundalini awakenings and things like that. So those are kind of glimpses of like what happens when you open up that serpent energy, those dormant abilities that we all have.
Did you have an experience like that?
I don't experience any like, you know, I haven't had any of those like, you know, kundalini illness or whatever, like where people feel like they've gone crazy or whatever. Like I haven't had any like intense, you know, un uncontrollable experiences. For me, it's just a general, like gradual awakening. Like it's not uncomfortable, because especially like I work with a teacher, and like when you work with a teacher, you're kind of guided. It's very recommended in tantra to be initiated and to have a guru and stuff like that, so that you're safe, and that, you know, like someone's kind of holding that container of energy in the safe space for you to develop and grow.
Did you practice an hour every day or?
What's that? Did I practice an hour every day?
Yeah.
Um, I do my best to. Like I try to keep up with it.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah.
And do you see your teacher every now and then, or how does that work?
At least it was at least a couple times a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of magical stuff do you do?
I work a lot with rituals. I like, you know, candle magic. I like working with the ancestors. Just any sort of modality. Just depends on what's going on with the moon phases and what I'm calling in. I definitely pay a lot of attention to what's happening astrologically, and like what sort of energies I need to integrate and work with according to that.
Do you have an example, like your last ritual or something like that you want to talk about?
Well, I have an example of a ritual that I'm planning soon. That's kind of like a sort of adaptation slash kind of you know, creative kind of mixing ritual, and it's going to be the called the Jack and the Beanstalk ritual. And so I'm going to be working with seeds. So a lot of there's spells, you know, that work with seeds, kind of like creating the physical manifestation of planting an intention. So there's going to be seeds, and this is like it's a literal like bean. There's called scarlet runner beans, and so I'm going to be creating a ritual and sharing it on my YouTube channel for basically it's a love ritual. So it's gonna have like red candles and working with essential oils that are kind of more romantic, like jasmine, liang liang oils, kind of having that vibration of like love and kind of sensuality. And yeah, the ritual just involves kind of working with the earth energy and planting the intention to grow your love.
So is this to manifest a new love interest in your life, or?
Yeah, it could be for that. It could be for someone growing the love in their relationship even more. It can be varied to whatever someone's intention is. It's like to grow, as I guess, romantic love in your life.
Okay. And then do you use a ritual that you've read in a book, or do you come up with it yourself?
So I sort of like read different spells kind of for inspiration, and then I kind of like make it my own.
Cool. And what is one of the spells that you've done where you really felt like it totally manifested in your life?
I would say like my black candle magic protection spell. So there's a protection spell that on my channel that you basically you dress the candle and you use a black candle and you can write into that candle essentially everything that you're wanting to send away. So black is the color of absorption. It contains all the colors. It's a color of protection. So when you can write in, people, if you want to cut cords with somebody, you can write their name in, or if you can write kind of concepts like you want to get rid of negativity or negative self-talk, or you want to get rid of anything procrastination, so you can like write that into the candle. And yeah, that definitely I could feel it. It's amazing with magic. I think there's always like a little bit of skepticism, but then you notice the energy is actually shifting. So I'll do rituals like that, and then I notice, people maybe drifting out of my life, or things like where my energy's changing. I'm attracting different circumstances. I'm feeling safer, and that's the beauty of it. I definitely think one of the most beautiful gifts of magic is truly feeling protected. So I do a lot of protection rituals. I think it's important for everybody to protect their aura, um, cleanse their aura, be cognizant of their energetic space, because going out in the world, people, especially empaths and stuff, people in the spiritual path, they can absorb so much energies from other people, and not even be aware that they're taking other energies on, or um, just the electromagnetic frequencies, the Wi-Fi, like the stuff like that. So I think it's definitely a gift to work with protection magic and knowing how to clear that stuff out so you can really be centered in yourself.
Yeah. Do you work with any particular goddesses, or you being from Egypt, maybe you work with the Egyptian goddesses?
Yeah, definitely. I love the goddess Kali. She's very much like the tantric goddess. She's very fierce. I think a lot of women love Kali. She's like the fierce, like divine feminine, very nurturing, motherly goddess, but also very protective and fierce and like fiery destroyer goddess.
Yeah, isn't she the destroyer?
Yeah, but she's very misconceived because people see her and they kind of think that she's like this demonic, like she's carrying like Shiva's head in her hand, and people kind of assume she's like this evil murderess, but it's actually all like symbolic, and the head is like it symbolizes the cutting off the ego. So she destroys, but she destroys your ego, your false self, the illusion.
Okay. Yeah, I have noticed that people have a different idea of her. Especially in the conspiracy world, because I heard that they have a huge statue of her in front of CERN, the huge construction in Switzerland, and there were a lot
Oh,
of conspiracy theories about that.
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, oh, these people are trying to destroy the world, that type.
Wow.
But if she is also the nurturing mother, then it could be the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff do you talk about on your YouTube channel?
So I started with the intention of talking about Tantra, and then I kind of began wanting to share more about just magic, spells, and like occult and the occult and things that can empower people. But just understanding, like sharing with them like simple spells that they can incorporate, like things that kind of like get their feet wet into magic and understanding the occult. I'm very passionate about sharing with people, just like the power at their disposal and like showing them, how to work with energy, like how to manifest, how to like use rituals to manifest. And I also, especially recently, have been very interested in talking about just like relationships, intimacy, seduction. Um, I think people in general who are attracted to Tantra, they're attracted to the sensuality, to the intimacy, to the sexuality, and essentially attracted to partnerships. So I find it really fascinating just talking about seduction and how people, relate. Like, how do we naturally want to attract, the opposite sex or like attract, um, just feel sensual and, how do we relate to others and stuff. Like, so I find um, the whole build up because in Tantra, it's very much the enjoyment and being very slow and gradual and like learn just being like sensual and learning the fine arts of love and intimacy and connection. So it all kind of like ties in together.
Cool. And you also do workshops, right?
Yes, I have in the past. I right now I've kind of put my focus more into my retreats. So I'm probably gonna have two retreats yearly. So one is gonna be my tantric yoga retreat in Bali, which is kind of for the beginner tantric yoga student who wants to learn, how to work with the Kundalini energy and also kind of just like connecting, doing like partner yoga and things like intimacy sort of based kind of things, as well as talking about tantric texts and learning, just like how to deepen your practice, your spiritual practice. And then the other retreat's probably going to be like a plant medicine retreat. I'm working on putting together. Um, so working with plant medicines. I've had some good experience working with plant medicines. I think, they're for the right kind of purposes. Like they can be really effective at helping a person cleanse and purge old energies and really develop in their life.
Are you going to be working with a shaman from a particular
Yeah,
tribe
yeah. I
or?
have a shaman that is on board.
Cool. Where is she from?
He's based in Los Angeles, also. Originally like Mexican heritage. Yeah.
Is it like a particular type of, because I know the plant medicine work it could be different types.
Right. So it's most likely going to be working with Wachuma or San Pedro medicine and possibly ayahuasca. Um, Yeah, very powerful medicines. The Wachuma is more like the father medicine, the masculine, and then ayahuasca is like the feminine. Ironically, the ayahuasca is like more of the intense kind of teach you a lesson energy, and San Pedro is a bit more like warm, nurturing, heart focused energy.
You tried both?
I actually have not worked with San Pedro yet, just with ayahuasca.
Okay. And where will these retreats be?
What's that?
Where would the retreats be taking place?
Yeah, I guess like that's where we're figuring out like where it's where it's allowed.
Okay.
Possibly in the Dominican Republic.
I heard it's there's a lot of activity there right now. A lot of people protesting. Um, my friend is from there and who's also living here in Topanga, and she said that they had an election recently, and then when people got there in the morning and looking at the machines, there was only one party to vote for. The party
What?
already in charge. Yeah. So basically, it was a coup, and so they went to the streets and they were protesting right up until this Corona thing happened.
Wow.
And you didn't see anything about it on the news here, but it was. She said it was really, really, really intense.
Okay, I didn't read that.
Yeah,
There's a lot of corruption in a lot of different countries.
everywhere. Yeah. Um, yeah, maybe we can tell people that how we actually met. Um,
Sure.
so we're working with an activist group here in Topanga where we are trying to stop the rollout of 5G because we already have thousands of peer-reviewed scientific studies showing harm from wireless radiation, and 5G is going to be it's going to massively increase the amount of radiation in our environment, which we don't really want to be part of that experiment. And that's how we met because we both joined there.
Yeah. And we've been having such great progress, right, with the lawsuits and with everything.
Yeah, there are 3 lawsuits now against the FCC. One is Robert Kennedy Jr.'s organization, the Children's Health Defense, and the other one is Dr. Deborah Davis, who used to be on Bill Clinton's. I think it's called like a safety board or something like that in the 90s. And so she also sued her organization, and then the last organization is run by Julian Gresser, an attorney from Harvard, I think. And yeah, it's great. We're trying to raise funds for the for these for 2 of the lawsuits that we're supporting.
Yeah, so and they can donate at Stop 5G CA.
So yeah, we have our organization is called 5G Free California, and they can go to 5gfreecalifornia.org /donate. I think donate there. So anyone who wanna support that. It's interesting. I heard some background noise came in since we started talking about this.
Wow.
Do you
Really?
hear it? Now it's fading.
Wow.
That's strange. Yeah, when they were going live yesterday because it was Global Protest Day against 5G yesterday, and when they were going live on the Facebook page, their voices kept being turned into chipmunks.
What?
Yeah, all of the live recordings kept being turned into chipmunks. Like,
Oh my God. No way.
yeah, Yeah, I don't know what's going
Someone's
on.
got
And,
it.
and while we have this coronavirus crisis, and everything is locked down, they are just implementing, putting up more small cells and cell towers everywhere, especially in schools.
So the construction of that's still going on right now.
Yeah, they're really trying to fast track it. Um, so yeah, we're up against, some big powers. Telecom industry is, one of the biggest industries in the world. So we need all hands on deck right now.
Yeah.
All right, let me look at if I had any other questions for you. Um, oh yeah, how to use divination. I think I saw on your YouTube you talked about divination.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So divination is basically expanding on the idea that we live in a holographic reality. So everything's always mirroring back to you. Everything's always speaking to you. And so divination is basically taking that concept and using a tool to directly read the language of that what's speaking to you. So it can be you reading through tarot cards and interpreting, the images of the tarot or the messages of the tarot, or it can be people who interpret the lay energy lines in a coffee cup reading, or just there's so many of these practices. Usually they end with mancy, so like clairomancy and like palmistry. A lot of it's like reading lines, because these lines, they're language, and once you codify it, kind of just in the same way that people who discover the Egyptian hieroglyphics like learned how to, okay, like these patterns, they didn't speak the language, but they figured out, okay, these patterns and this is showing up here, and eventually you read the language. So with divination, people have just put this language together. They've kind of understood, okay, like there's a general cycle of the energy. There's kind of different stages, and like the I Ching or in tarot, like there's general kind of, there's a starting phase, and then there's these changes, and then there's this. So they could tell you like what phase in the energy you're in, or the astrology based divination. Like palmistry is kind of based on more astrological divination, sort of like the planetary energies and how they show up in your hand. And the fascinating thing is all of it's connected. The more you get into the divination techniques, the more you realize like they're all the same language. Kind of in the same way that French and Italian and Portuguese, like they're all the same root language. Divination is also like you start discovering like these are all the same root language of everything. Like it's just the language of God, of the universe, like speaking to you. So it's so fun to me. It's really fun, and it's just like you can like everyone, like who doesn't love like finding out like, oh, like this is what this means, and like you just go deeper into yourself and like understand how to navigate like what's going on. So I'm very passionate about divination. I like highly recommend people to get into it. You do scrying, working with like the black mirrors, where you kind of gaze and see what reflections come back to you. You can work with tarot cards. You can learn palm reading. There's so many different ways you can go. There's literally thousands of divination methods, and it's actually a very big part of our history. Like back in agricultural days, like when people wanted to kind of determine the weather, they would use dowsing rods and where should I plant and where should I farm, and so like it's definitely like an ancient art. The oracles have always been there, so it's really like an eternal language.
Yeah, in Scandinavia, they would use runes. They would cast
Yes, I love runes. You
What's
work
your
with runes,
favorite? Sorry?
you work with the runes, right?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. What's your favorite type of divination?
My favorite?
Yeah, if you have one.
I don't know. Like I would still say tarot. It's kind of like the basic one. I just love the cards. And just any cards, actually. It doesn't necessarily have to be tarot. Like the actual playing cards, you know, that they play for poker and stuff, they're kind of based on the same like minor arcana. So it's kind of fun just playing with the playing cards and doing divination like that. But I love tarot. There's something that really draws me to tarot.
They are beautiful, but
Yeah, I love the runes too. Do you like working with the runes?
yeah, I do. Yeah. Do you know how to read palms?
Um, yeah, I'm like I'm a beginner with that, but I'm definitely like advancing my knowledge in it. I know
Wow.
the different mounds. I know the different the fingers, the fate line, the love line. Um, yeah.
So is it the right or the left hand that shows the future?
Usually how people interpret it is like your non-dominant hand is kind of like where you were, and your dominant hand is like where you are. You know what's
Okay.
happening. So your non-dominant is probably more like your past, your upbringing, and then your dominant is more like where you're going. Um, what's super fascinating to me is I didn't know this till maybe like a year ago. I always thought, you know, the lines in your hand, it's kind of like your fingerprints, like it's just set in stone. And it's not. People's lines actually change over time. So it means kind of like your fate's not set in stone, which is the same as any like good tarot reader, a good divination reader will tell you, numerology reader, is that nothing is actually, you know, 100% like this is your fate. It's always changeable. There's always quantum possibilities. Even so much so that your lines will literally change on your hand.
Wow.
And the mounds, like they could get more developed, more like meaty, and just like have better qualities.
Would be interesting if one had taken a photo every 10 years and see
Yeah, I think they
what
have
changes.
stuff like that. They do actually have, if you Google it, you can see some of those. Like
Oh,
before and
okay.
after line changing.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to read my palms one day.
Okay.
When we are allowed to leave our house.
We're allowed to mingle and like
Yeah. Awesome. Let me see if I have any other questions. Um, yeah, I guess we covered a lot of the stuff that I wanted to ask you. Um, think I think you already covered what is Tantra and how does it relate to magic. Or is there anything you wanna um anything else you wanna say on that?
I would just say to anyone listening to be open-minded and like not be so afraid of the occult, because I think the occult and magic and stuff has gotten a bad rap, and that's precisely to keep it protected and keep it to a select few, you know, to know how to have that power and stuff like that. And I think it's time now that these resources and these teachings like go out into the public and people be more empowered and know how to create their best life by tapping into the root thing of everything, the energy, the manifestation, the creation of your life.
Nice, yeah. It would be wonderful if everyone was creating with a conscious mind.
Yeah.
So do you think that there are cults that have this hidden knowledge and are working in the shadows?
Well, secret societies have existed since forever. So there's definitely, yeah, magic's definitely been hidden in secret societies. But when I say I meant the occult, like the hidden. The
Right.
word occult, like the magic, it just like it literally means hidden, like secret. But it's gotten such a bad rap. People, you know, they think it's demonic or they think it's, you know, blah blah blah, and it's totally misunderstood. just like Kali, like it's like everything is not what it seems. You always got to dive in deeper and question everything. Question me, question whatever you hear. Like real true knowledge is knowledge of the self, and like learning to trust your own intuitive compass, like knowing that you have your own back, you know what you're feeling, you know what you're doing, you know, being just sovereign, not giving your power away to other people.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell people, the listeners, where they can find you.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram, Scarlett Tantrika, and also on YouTube, Scarlett Tantrika. And there's a Facebook group for if people have questions or want to connect with other people in the Tantra community. The Facebook group is Scarlett's Tantra Cafe. Also,
Nice.
the website, scarletttantrika.com. And I do divination readings. I do one-on-one coaching for different tantric yoga, sort of like anything that a person might need help with if they resonate with my content. I've been having quite some good success working with people, and
Do you work with people remotely? Sorry?
what's that?
Do you work with people remotely?
Yeah. So I work. I do online meetings, Zoom meetings.
And can people book from your website?
Yeah. There's a contact form on the website.
Oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on here. And I will definitely link to all your stuff in the description.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much. We're going to have you come on another time.
Definitely. Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
So I stop recording.